Hi, everyone, and welcome to Calling All Vegans, where we aim to network, support, and activate the vegan and animal rights communities, discuss the V word in a relaxed but unapologetic way, stamp out speciesism, and encourage pre-vegans to open their eyes, minds, and hearts and become vegan. I'm Sue Spar. This is my friend and co-host, Alec Bosse. Bossy.
So we have a new YouTube channel, Calling All Vegans, and we would be grateful if everyone watching today could like, comment, and subscribe so that you can stay informed of this wonderful programming here.
Ooh, listen to you. Okay. Our guest today proves you don't have to be a ruthless capitalist to change the world and the corporate landscape and operate a very successful business, all without harm to animals. Through his cause-based companies, he has inspired a plant-based revolution and sold millions of animal-free products, but has never sold out. It's a big job veganizing the world, and 2020 marks 40 years in business for him, and his iconic brand also turned 25 years old this year. From his humble beginnings of living in a treehouse attached to 4 trees that he rented for $25 a month, he could now reside in a penthouse if he wanted. We'll be discussing his new book, In Search of the Wild Tofurky, How a Business Misfit Pioneered Plant-Based Foods Before They Were Cool. Misfits are much more interesting people anyway, and I'm not personally impressed by wealth, but rather by how much good a person does in the world, so this man has my full respect. He doesn't really need an introduction, but please welcome Seth Tibbott, founder of Tofurky, to Calling All Vegans. Yay!
Hey, thanks guys. Nice to meet you.
I have to tell you, my husband John takes a Tofurky and cheese sandwich in his lunch every single day to work, and I am also a diehard fan. So.
Oh, good. I had one yesterday, and you know what? It was as good as it was when it first came out. So I'm happy that the quality has been great. You know, the Deli slice has been just like an amazing product for us, and I think one of the best ones for people that, you know, are maybe new to veganism, and it's widely available and it's so delicious. I've had many meat eaters go, wow, I could, you know, I could eat this way if I had products like this. And
well, I've swayed a few people with that very product. So
absolutely.
There you go.
Oh, so good. How fitting is it today that today is the International Day of Peace, and here we have one of the key individuals that have helped make a peaceful world accessible by making plant-based food accessible to everyone. Thank you again.
Yeah, that's a great day. I love peace and extending peace, not just to humans, but to non-human animals as well. And that's a big component of the mission behind Tofurky, is just working for a world where animals are friends and not food, and that where you treat all living things with respect.
Oh,
absolutely. So what was the inspiration for the new book, In Search for the Wild Tofurky?
Well, the landscape when I started in 1980 was a very different world than what we're seeing now. The plant-based foods category, which is booming right now and headed to you know, billions of dollar industry. I think in the US it's getting close to over $1 billion right now. In 1980, that category was zero in the supermarkets. You know, the only thing you had were accidentally vegan products like Oreos.
I was going to say Oreo.
Yeah, that was a breakthrough product. And, you know, even tofu was very hard to find in a supermarket. You really had to go to Asian stores or maybe your local co-op. In 1980, I first started making tempeh, which was even one step further than tofu, because tofu had been in the US since 1905, I think, in Portland, when Oda Tofu started. And the first tempeh commercially was made in 1976. So we were one of the first people trying to promote this other strange new fermented soy product. And in the co-op where I was making the tempeh at night, the way that tofu was sold is it would come in great big white buckets that were swimming in water. Maybe I see you're nodding the head. Maybe you remember those days.
Oh, yeah.
And then, volunteers they'd reach in there with these plastic gloves and they'd take out the tofu and they'd put it in Chinese restaurant takeout one so that people could buy just one, and they would write on it in pen tofu. That was packaging back then. So it was a very different world. So I figured I didn't want to lose touch, with how far veganism and plant-based foods had come over all these days and what it was like back then. And that was the reason behind the story, was how did we go from $0 industry to $1 billion industry over 40 years, and what does that mean for the future, for the next 40 years, and where will we end up out of that? So it was kind of recounting the story and being able to go back and honor and thank all the people that have really helped me, and trying to help not only just tell a fun story, but also encouraging some of these new plantrepreneurs is what I call them, and vegan entrepreneurs that are starting out. I was just on the phone this morning to a company over in the UK that I'm working with that is trying to do a seitan fried chicken. And
Ooh.
I just
have my attention.
Yeah, I know. Wouldn't you love that? So I love working with, these small startups that are going to be the titans of tomorrow. And so I was trying to give a little bit of, hey, don't do this, because I've made plenty of mistakes, as you'll see in the book. So help people to avoid those.
I loved it. Well, really, just to give kind of the Coles Notes version of the book, it's not just a business how-to for those who plan to work hard and maintain their ethics, but it's also a charming rags to riches Cinderella story, or a treehouse to penthouse tale. I'll just keep milking, well, I shouldn't say milking that penthouse bit, of a hippie teacher / naturalist who became an unlikely successful business owner of an iconic plant-based brand, while keeping his integrity and even collaborating with and helping other players succeed in the vegan food space, because seeing the plant-based sector thrive is way bigger than any brand or business. So now, Seth, what does the Wild Tofurky look like?
That's a good question. In 1995, after 15 years of failure as a tempeh producer, I was looking for something to serve. I was always looking for something to serve during holidays, especially Thanksgiving and Christmas. Thanksgiving then was called Turkey Day, which is a weird name because turkeys are, of course, 40 million turkeys are slaughtered for that. And as a vegetarian,
Tofurky Day.
Yeah, we would. Thank you.
I read that you did that. Yeah.
Yeah, Tofurky Day, and so we were looking. And I guess I wasn't the only one looking for something to eat that day that was a high protein substitute, because you did have other things to eat, but I would see in the magazines there were such long involved recipes that literally I saw one that was in Vegetarian Times, and it was 3 pages long of instructions, and I'm sure it was good, but who has time to do that? And what I wanted was a delicious, easy to prepare, convenient, bomb-proof recipe for vegetarians to eat and bring them into the celebration. And early on, it was really clear that there was a need for this, and people were really saying they would give us feedback. Oh, I've been waiting 20 years for this product. And, it was a big thing. But then 2 years later, the Wall Street Journal wrote this article, and they said, the real question is, what does a tofurkey look like in the wild? And we were like, that's a great question, because we have never seen them in the wild. We just saw them, on the dinner plate. And so we had a contest that said, draw what tofurkeys look like in the wild. And we got all of these incredible drawings from artists and school kids and everything. But the thing that they missed was, this is a vegan product. Mostly they had like
Faces.
turkey-like creatures that were made of carrots and beans and stuff, and they all had faces and eyes. But this one person said, what happens is these tofurkeys grow on trees, and the roasts grow, and then they fall in the fall. And it was this whole story. So tofurkeys grow on trees, and we have a secret orchard out here that I can't divulge the location of. But the picture on the cover of that book was me up in a tree that was, I'm just picking tofurkeys. So
very cute.
that's the secret. That's what tofurkeys look like in the wild. They look like big acorns, basically.
Perfect. Now, I was very thrilled that I was able to have that protein centerpiece, and as well as leftover cold turkey and mayo sandwiches. So
Tofurky and mayo.
Yeah, tofurky and mayo. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How many tofurkey roasts did you sell that first year, and how many have you sold to date?
So that first year, we sold 818, and that was really just in the West Coast. And it really, struck a chord with not just consumers, but the media in a way that I hadn't really experienced before with any of my other products. And there were actually stores that put in a tofurkey hotline because the product was so in demand. And it was great to see, because some of these stores even said, we used to have a big truck full of turkeys, frozen turkeys, that we'd have in the parking lot during Thanksgiving, but after tofurkey, we didn't need that truck anymore. And I was like, yes, that's what we're looking for. So it just grew from there, and now we're up over 5 million, almost 6 million tofurkey roasts sold throughout the world, and it's still a flagship product.
Well, I was researching 66 million turkeys are killed every Thanksgiving in Canada and the US combined. So you're creeping up on them anyway. So let's hope, right?
Yeah.
Did you receive any pushback when you disrupted this meat category?
We did. There was certainly a lot of poking fun at the name, which we were all for, because the tofurkey is a fun word and it's a fun concept, and that was part of our marketing. Was we wanted there to be fun, because as vegans, we don't want to come off as too pretentious, and having a laugh with somebody is a human thing that really connects you to people. So we didn't mind that, and we would get calls from people that, I remember one time I was sitting in the office and managing the phones, because I was doing a little bit of everything then. We were still a very small company. And, people would call up and they'd say, you know what I'm having for Christmas? I'm having a whole damn cow, click. And I was like, troll. It was early trolls. Like, I'm sure that guy is like trolling on Facebook now. But, there was a lot of pushback, certainly from the press, and just making fun of this like little fad that'll go away. But we knew early on that this was going to be a big hit and a brand that would really going to change the culture of the company, and really the space of how meat alternatives were treated and viewed by the American public. And they just, tofurkey went to a place that no meat alternative had ever gone before. It like branched out from just like a product that people would cover in a serious vein, like this is how it's made and this is how you can use it, here's a recipe. It went into the fictional realm, like characters on TV shows.
Oh yeah, pop culture.
Yeah, they were all talking about tofurkey, or novels or movies, would have it. And when you wanted to say something about a character, you say, "Oh, they're a tofurkey eater," and
Well, and you never had to pay for product placement or anything. I think just having this kind of humorous edge to it, it helps make people swallow the vegan medicine a little better. And I mean, we're all seen as humorless anyway, right? That's what people think. So, it was a
right.
good thing.
Mhm.
No, that's exactly a good point, Sue. And yeah, I think, like I said, if you can share a joke with somebody, you remember jokes. You forget a lot of stuff that you're supposed to remember, but a good laugh, bonds you with
for sure.
somebody, and you can really share that.
You started off, like we've mentioned earlier, as a relatively small company, and you've grown to be a major hitter and a well-known family name. How wide is the reach of Tofurky now? How many different products do you have on your product line, et cetera?
And I intend to burn through every one of them.
Yeah. Last count, we had 54, and that was sold in 27,000 stores worldwide. And I can tell you this, the sun never sets on the Tofurky empire now. It's sold all around the world, including, on all continents but one. Do you know the one continent that Tofurky's not sold on?
Antarctica?
I actually read it in the book and I've forgotten.
Been there, done that. And we probably are sold in Africa, but we haven't done any real meaningful business. But yeah, you could buy Tofurky in Antarctica.
Wow.
So that's a statement right there.
Now, I ate a lot of rubbery, nasty tasting dairy-free cheese in my day, as did you, no doubt. Can you tell us about the recent launch of the Moocho brand and what makes it stand out from other brands in this category? And does your wife Sue's tofu cheesecake feature?
Oh yeah, so Tofurky is a great name for certain things, but it really doesn't work so well for cheeses. So we did create a new brand, Moocho, that we have. We had cheesecakes, and we still do have these little cheesecakes in our signature Tofurky feast, which comes with a big stuffed roast, gravy, and cheesecake. And that was very successful. So we launched that, and we had been working on cheese for a very long time. And we when we looked at the cheese category, we saw that a lot of the cheeses that were out now had been recipes that were developed in the early 2000s that were a little bit older and hadn't really evolved as much. So we were putting new R&D. We've been working on cheese for like 5 years and really perfecting it. And then we got one that really is amazing right now. So we've been getting great response from buyers. We're just placing it in stores right now. And it's a modern take on cheeses. I mean, you're probably old enough to remember the first vegan cheeses. We always had the joke about them. Did you hear about the fire in the vegan cheese factory?
Oh, nothing melted
Yeah, right. The next day, the cheese was perfect. It didn't melt. And I have to give a shout out to Daiya, because they're a great Canadian company that really changed the landscape. And if they had a fire, it would be a gooey mess right now. Like, heaven forbid that they had a fire. But they were trailblazers, and they changed the cheese to a good melt, and we are thankful for them. But anyways, we're just it's a new take on cheese, because vegan cheese, the first vegan cheese I remember really was in the 1990s. I mean, it's a very new category, and a lot of people say, vegan cheese, it's not as good as dairy cheese. Well, could you give it a century? I mean, people have been making animal cheeses for thousands of years, and I'm sure the first ones were like, well, it's okay, but
we've grown accustomed, like if you think about it, cheese smells awful, right? And I mean, but we're used to it. So let's get used to some of these vegan cheeses, right? I mean, I don't want to say what cheese smells like, but we all know, right?
No, and I'll tell you this, it's sort of addictive. Like I've had periods of my life where I was going back and forth between vegan and vegetarian on cheese just because of cheese. Like this is back in the 80s and stuff. But what I noticed is when I hadn't been eating animal-based cheeses for a while, and you go back, it isn't like you go, oh my God, this is so good. It was like, oh my God, this is really doesn't feel that good in my body. And it wasn't, it was very surprising in a way. But now, there's still, I have to say, there's still a ways to go in the vegan cheese category, but it's been a fast startup and it's really made a lot of progress. And I think if you give it you don't have to wait 100 years, but I think in 10, 15 years, they're going to be like miles better and probably indistinguishable from animal cheese. And I would say better than animal cheese. That's what I think.
I believe you.
So in addition to the tofurky products and the tempeh products and the cheese products, you also make a plant-based burger as well. Can you tell us a bit about that and what makes it different from the more recent pea protein-based burgers that are becoming so popular?
Yeah, this is a burger that I've been grilling just about, 2 or 3 times a week this summer.
Wow.
And, they're an awesome burger for the grill. We've been selling these in the produce section as opposed to the meat section because that's the section where most of the tofurky products have been standing. But it's a very good, it's almost like steak. Like you don't need a bun. You know what I've been doing is I've been cooking these on the grill and just eating them plain with a little A1 steak sauce on there, which is vegan, by the way. And I love eating those like that. So it's a similar recipe, but it has a little bit more sizzle on the grill. And, our taste tests tell us that it's comparable or better than any of the other entries in that category. So that's exciting. But, you need time to get your story out. And, we can, in a category like that, there's always room for different brands to come on because different brands have different followings and speak to different customers. And, we see this as a big need. Meat alternatives are so hot right now. The growth in meat alternatives is like 128% right now. And to give you an idea, and that was a figure as of March, comparing to March 2019. In the grocery industry, if a grocery store in all of their food grows by 2%, they're like breaking out the champagne corks and they say, this is a great year. So if they see a category that's growing at 5%, they're like, oh my God, we got to get more of this in. This is hot. It's growing at over 2 times the fast as all of our other things. So we want competition. We think that going from where we are now, which is even with this growth, 1% of animal-based proteins, to go from 1% to 100% and veganizing the world, that's a huge job. And we need all these brands. We don't need to just, it's one brand can't do this. You need all these brands. So we love what Beyond Meat's doing. We love what Impossible's doing. We love what the small little artisanal, tempeh makers doing in their little kitchens everywhere. So we want all brands to succeed.
I went vegetarian in January '86. Do you happen to know when you started selling in Canada? Because I became a loyal customer the minute I spotted tofurky in the store. I mean, I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah, so Tofurky, Loblaws was one of our first accounts up there. Actually, I had been selling tempeh to a company called Wild West in British Columbia from the early 1980s. And I was going up there and I was doing in-store demos. And I had this week, it was right around Halloween, where I was doing these in-store demos, and I read about a costume contest, and I'm a big Halloween guy. So I made this costume of an upside down man where I had pants on my arms, and I was putting legs, on with a sweater. And I won 2 tickets to a Rolling Stones concert the next week
Nice.
in British Columbia for this huge costume contest in British Vancouver. So that was one of the bennies of being a tempeh maker. But
Fond memories of Canada then, huh?
yeah, but Loblaws probably for Tofurky, the first Tofurky came into Canada right around, I think, 1999 or 2000, because we started with the roast, and then the deli slices came in 1997, and those were like the year-round sales of products. So it was probably right around 2000.
Well, it helped me as a mom with raising 2 little kids, vegetarians. I did love the stories that you shared about your dad. My dad was a Lloyd too, and like yours, he was a fun-loving, creative, quirky guy who loved to make up words and phrases, and that's all I wanted to say.